Hi everyone, Miss Moxley here. So what we are going to cover today is we are going to cover the plant kingdom. So we are going to actually toggle back and forth between the plant kingdom in the lesson and then some notes that I have for you guys. Just because I don't want it to be boring in terms of just a black and white page for you. I want you to be able to see the images from the lesson. But also my notes are just to highlight some points from within the lesson. So when you're taking your notes, of course, you want to make sure that you can complete the objectives by the time that you finish the lesson. So the objectives for the plant kingdom are to distinguish between and give examples of mossosperms, gymnosperms, and angiosperms, and then define and explain the term pioneer organism. Then you've got your key words, so these are some of your vocabulary terms. You want to make sure that you can define these and then give examples of these. All right, so let me just adjust my screen here so that I can easily click and access the next button. All right. Now, so when we're talking about plants, and I'm going to flop over here to my notes. I've already got my objectives and my keywords there. So when we're talking about plants, our plants are organisms that can photosynthesize. And you guys are probably thinking, what does photosynthesize mean? Or maybe you know, but photosynthesis is the ability to produce energy from the sun. So the sun is our initial point of energy for all living things, okay? Most plants are multicellular organisms and include things like grasses, trees, and flowering plants. The cell wall of plants contains cellulose, and the cells of plants contain chlorophyll. So we'll talk about that more in depth as we go in terms of cellulose and chlorophyll, but just know that cellulose is important for structure of the plant, for keeping it upright, and helping with turgor pressure, and then chlorophyll is important in terms of photosynthesis and producing energy. So just in case you were curious. So first we are going to talk about mosses. So our mosses are small soft plants that grow together in clumps, and mosses belong to the phylum Bryophyte. All right. So in this picture here that they have, what they're showing is just some typical plants. They're not showing any mosses, but I will pop over to our mosses so that we can just get a general picture of that. So we've got some different mosses here. Of course, you can see those in the lesson, but you've got some different mosses here just for you to kind of view and associate with the term. All right, back to our notes. So mosses are similar to plants, except for that they require and have to grow near bodies of water. There has to be a constant and large supply of water for them to exist, or else they will not be able to survive. They will not be able to reproduce. They will shrivel up and actually dry and die. So bryophytes, they grow low to the ground. Okay, this is important because of their lack of transporting tissues or transporting cells within their bodies. So within the bryophyte, there's no transporting tissues, there's no transporting cells. So they're small, they're close to the ground so that the water and the nutrients is able to easily flow throughout their small and short bodies. It doesn't have far to travel. Now, bryophytes are pioneer organisms, and what this means is that these plants can grow on surfaces that most plants are not able to grow on. So they're able to grow on rocks and terrains of that nature and break those terrains down to some extent so that other organisms can come in and grow there. And actually, bryophytes, once they break these items down, such as rocks, and once they die for whatever reason, if they were to die, they leave behind nutrients for other plants. So with that in mind, we're going to talk about ferns. So ferns, and let me get you just a picture real quick so you can distinguish that. So you guys have probably seen ferns before. Maybe your mom or your grandmother hangs them outside. these are more common than mosses. If you don't live in a wooded area, mosses are common in wooded areas. So ferns have feather-like leaves called fronds. Fronds was a vocabulary term. Ferns have specialized transport cells, unlike mosses. So mosses didn't have those transport cells, and ferns do. Ferns are considered the first land plants, meaning that they were not derived from water or did not come from plants that were in water. So with mosses, mosses are believed to be plants that were derived from animal plants, such as things like algae or seaweed. And these plants, ferns, were the first plants that established on land without coming from something else, without deriving from something else. Ferns have rhizomes, and rhizomes are the roots. And rhizomes grow parallel to the ground, so they just grow across the top of the ground. And their purpose is to obtain water and nutrients. Unlike the mosses, mosses do not have rhizomes. And when ferns die over time, because they're considered really, really old organisms, they've been around for a long time. When ferns in the past have died and been compacted, they create coal. Okay, and some of us, or all of us, are familiar with coal and its purposes in terms of heat and cooking, things of that nature. All right. Ferns have spores, and spores are sex cells found in mosses and ferns. So it's not only in ferns, it's in mosses and ferns, and they're used for reproduction of both of these plants. Now, here's the catch in terms of the similarities between mosses and ferns. Okay, with these spores that are transported by wind, they have to have water in terms of producing an actual plant. So if there's not water to keep these seeds, these spores moist, not seeds, spores, to keep these spores moist, they won't be able to grow into other plants. So the similarity there for mosses and ferns is, although mosses they live in a moist area, ferns do not have to have that moist area. Ferns have to have that moist area to be able to reproduce, just like mosses. Now, moving on, we're going to talk about our gymnosperms, and you all again are probably very familiar with gymnosperms. And what I'm talking about with gymnosperms is I'm talking about our cone producing plants. So if you all are familiar with pine trees, our evergreen trees that produce cones, if you all have to pick up pine cones out of your yard, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about gymnosperms. Gymnosperm just means naked seed. And these plants produce cones with the seeds under the scales, and these scales act as a protection for the seed. Now, with gymnosperms produce pollen. Pollen is the male portion of the plant. So I know for you guys, probably some of you are not familiar with pollen to some extent, but here where I live in the spring, pollen is really bad. It's like yellow snow. It covers everything just in the layers, and it's really, really bad. But pollen, that yellow stuff that coats everything, is the male part of the cone. Now the female part of the cone is the seed plant. So we're talking about our sex cells here, the male and female parts of the plant, the pollen and the seed. Now, some gymnosperms produce both the male and female parts on a single cone. Okay, these are monoecious. These are considered ferns, cedars, and larch. Other plants, other gymnosperms, produce the male and female parts on different parts of the plant, and these are dioecious, like cycads and yews. All right, angiosperms. You all are probably very familiar with angiosperms, and I'll get you a picture here. Our angiosperms are our flowering plants. So if your mom or your grandmom, whoever, maybe you're interested in flowering plants, you like them, you think that they're pretty, these are our angiosperms. These are our flowering plants. And angiosperms have a protected or covered seed. And these seeds do not require water. Therefore, these plants can live in a wider variety of habitats. So they don't have to have water in terms of actually surviving and producing a plant. And flowering plants, in terms of reproduction, flowering plants reproduce via sex cells, and these sex cells have to be fertilized with pollen, just like our gymnosperms. And our angiosperms produce both the pollen and the egg in terms of the female part. So our plant produces both pieces of that. The pollen is produced by the anthers. This is considered the male part. And the sex cell is transported, the pollen is transported to the female part, the pistil, by wind. Okay, so we have our anther, which is our male part. It produces pollen. Our female part, our pistil, it has the ovary and the egg. The pollen has to reach the ovary and the egg within the female part. And this can be done by wind. This can be done by animals or insects. But in terms of transportation and fertilization, our pollen has to reach our female part of our plant for angiosperms to reproduce, to create flowers and fruits and vegetables and all of those things. All right, so in terms of plants, that's it for today. If you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. You can send me an email, or you can let the facilitator know and they can contact me directly. Bye guys, have a great rest of your day.